Basically, the theme of the 13th chapter is it is distinction between the body and the soul. That's what that particular chapter was teaching, that you're not this body, you're a spirit soul, and in a very Jnana style, Jnana Yoga style, and how that knowledge actually leads to detachment. And we all know body was described as the field, soul as the knower, and Paramatma as the Sarvagya, means he is the Kshetragya who understands all the Kshetras, all the bodies. And we also saw real knowledge is developed through processes like humility, patience, and detachment, etc. And there was one interesting verse in the chapter 13, which acts as the Bija Vakya. Swami calls this as the Bija Vakya, not just for chapter 14, pretty much for the whole of Bhagavad Gita to some extent. Here, the Purusha means the living entity. He is so he becomes situated in the material nature and enjoys, means the three modes born of the material nature. And because of that, because of his association, his or her association with the gunas, the three modes, asya, of Sadasadyoni Janmashu, gets sometimes good birds, sometimes great species like good species like human species, sometimes a species of an earthworm or firefly. Means it's different levels of consciousness. So Sad and Asadyoni Janmashu. So the whole emphasis is this entanglement in material nature is due to association with the modes. So it seems like the association with modes is the crux of bondage. So that's what the 13th chapter said. So if that is true, then it would be very important for us to understand that mechanism of bondage in order to get released from it. So that's why it's very important. And Krishna is spending so much time in actually explaining in the chapter 14 that the soul is originally transcendental. That is also spoken in the 13th chapter. And nirguna means the soul is nirguna, means it is not touched by the three modes, is not touched by the three gunas. However, because the soul desires to enjoy, it becomes associated with material nature. So the whole mechanism of bondage is executed through the three modes. So the soul desires to enjoy, comes in contact with the modes, and gets binded in the material world. So the desire leads to the contact with the modes, and the contact with the modes causes bondage. So that is why here we are trying to understand the mechanism of that bondage. So this is how Krishna transitions into chapter 14, because until now we were taught in so many chapters to remain detached, to perform duties without ego or attachment, which is karma yoga. And then we spoke about knowledge that leads to freedom, jnana yoga. But never that process of bondage was systematically explained. How that process of bondage happens, how does it function, how does it take effect on our consciousness. So Krishna is now in this chapter 14 explaining how the soul gets trapped in the material world. We're all in a jail. We don't feel it most times. We don't feel we are in a physical jail of this body, nor do we think this world is a prison. We think we are here to enjoy, the world is here to enjoy. Oh, that's a great fashion. This person's hair looks good, their dress looks amazing, the house looks great, this car is the latest model, the shoes are the latest hit. So we just are constantly influenced by the material world, and we never see that we are being trapped here. So that's why Krishna is like giving a key to to see the matrix of the modes in this chapter. So this chapter serves as a practical explanation of the philosophical cause, the bondage. What are the modes will be discussed in this chapter. How they function will be discussed. What is their symptoms when it manifests in us? And what is the consequences that we go through because of being in a certain mode? And most importantly, how to transcend them. We're not here to do a PhD thesis on three modes. Krishna is not giving us like knowledge for the sake of information. Krishna is giving us so that we could actually transcend them, actually get free of them, their influence. So that's the main reason. So this chapter will speak about modes in detail because we want to know how to transcend them. Of course, by simple practice of bhakti, we can transcend them. However, having an idea can help us regulate our lifestyle. So natural, this question can come to your mind. Why we should study the modes so seriously? Why Prabhu is so animated this morning? Like, oh, I have so many problems to work in life. Like, why so like seriously study about modes? What's a big deal? In terms of existential truth, if the association with the modes, the guna sangha, if that is the cause of bondage of the soul with the material nature, then understanding how that bondage works can be very critical in order to actually undo that bondage. Only by recognizing their presence and influence can we avoid further entrapment and consciously rise above the current entrapment and return to our original transcendental nature through bhakti yoga. So we will also be able to appreciate the effect of the bhakti yoga, the simple process of bhakti yoga, how it keeps us above the three modes, how the simple processes of chanting Hare Krishna, offering food to Krishna, chanting kirtan to the deities, singing for their pleasure, doing deity worship, going to holy places, being in the association of devotees, discussing about these spiritual subject matters, they can raise us above the three modes gradually, very easily, without even knowing what are the three modes. I'm pretty sure many devotees may not be able to give a very philosophical exposition on what are the three modes. However, they know how to rise above them. So that is the advantage of practicing Bhakti Yoga, and Prabhupada did it so beautifully by giving us a system through the morning program, through the chanting, by following the four regulative principles. In these simple ways, like Rath Yatra, festivals, all these, through these things, he has given us ways to extricate ourselves. If we don't understand that, then we will again fall into the trap of doing bhakti as a cultural thing. So it's why very important to understand the mode seriously, because without raising to the mode of goodness and practicing bhakti seriously with a very sincere intent, we won't be able to break through that bondage. And the chapter flow, how do we transition between 13 and 14? How are they connected? In chapter 13, Krishna introduced the soul and the body right in the second chapter. But again, through the prism, through the vision of the Jnana Yoga, he introduced what is soul, what is body, what is material nature, right? What are the terminologies used for the soul and body and material nature in the previous chapter? Kshetra is the body, Kshetragya is the soul, and Prakriti is the material nature. So Krishna spoke about them, introduced them in the previous chapter. And now he is going to explain how is the soul trapped in this body? Because they are of different nature. One is inert, the other one is conscious. How, like, oil and water does not mix usually. There is an emulsification process, right? You make a veganese, you just put oil and milk there, and then you emulsify it, then it becomes into a spread that we want. So here, the same way, the soul and the body, they're unmixing. They're like categorically different things. How do they work together? How do they interact? So that is through the subtle body, and the subtle body is highly influenced and operated by the three modes. So that's why in this chapter he's explaining what is the link between the soul and the matter. What is it that linking the soul? And in chapter 13, he spoke that how the association with the gunas, the three modes, causes rebirth. And he is going to show how that association works and how it manifests in this chapter. He describes the detached knower, like a Jnana Yogi in the previous chapter. But here he's going to explain how to rise above the modes. And eventually he's glorify bhakti at the end again. And in 13th chapter, we saw that Krishna says, the soul is nirguna, is untouched by the three modes, or what you call independent of the three modes. And he's teaching how to regain that original nature in this chapter by understanding the modes and by practicing them. So any questions? So we are not free in the way we imagine. We all think, I want to be free, but we are being constantly pushed and pulled by forces we rarely name. We walk around and then think, oh, I want to go to Soho. There's a new store that is open. So we just get pulled in that direction. And then, oh, there is a new kind of restaurant that is open in another direction. So all the senses drag us in all directions. So continuously being pushed internally and pulled externally, or internally and externally pushed and pulled by these forces. And Gita names them. That is the three gunas which is forcing us. So how do we become free? Is this chapter all about? How do we become free from those influences and regain our life, regain our free will, become independent, and execute bhakti happily? That's the purpose of this whole chapter. So anyone would like to summarize, reflect, share your thoughts, ask. So keep it focused on the connection between chapter 13 and chapter 14. So if you want me to re-explain something, please. What do you think about the topic of the three modes? Yeah, unless I hear some voices, I'm not going ahead.
Okay, I can try.
Okay. Every one of you is going to try something. Unless you are in a situation where you cannot speak, you can say something about it.
Till now, we had always heard about the three modes and how, like, the basic definition of them. And I think that after you explain that chart right now, it would be easier to understand in depth how we are affected by these three modes, because now we know the distinction between Kshetra, Kshetrajna, and all the six questions that Arjuna asked. So I think, yeah, it would be much easier now to understand how we are influenced by the three modes, and also, as you said, how to be liberated from them.
Thank you.
Which I think the answer would be like intense bhakti, but yes.
Yeah, you know it all.
That seems the only answer, because
No, that's the main thing we need to understand. So we all know that essence. Prabhupada is like kind of nailed it like again, and then he has hammered it. So we all understand, okay, three modes, the influences, and bhakti is the way to be released from that. But still understanding how they influence us every moment can be very helpful to gradually keep ourselves in sattva and practice bhakti.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I don't think I actually I don't think I realize how much they influence on a continual level, on a consistent level during the day or during my life. Like when you said something about, oh, there's a restaurant. Just the other day, I noticed, oh, there's this new restaurant, Greg was saying, in Vermont. It's a vegan restaurant. We should have a road trip and go. And I thought that's the modes, like carrying us out there, just this enjoyment idea. And I guess I just, even though I understand them theoretically, I don't know how, I don't realize the extent how much they influence me throughout the day, except unless it's I'm doing something that I think, oh, I really shouldn't be doing this. I should be doing something else. Then I think about it.
Yeah, it means that, like, understanding sometimes these things can also like feel like, oh, it just gives shame or guilt or fear. However, the idea is to basically empower us, because the mind like tricks us by making us feel guilty while we understand these things, and then makes us completely shameless at the next moment, despite understanding. So it just like oscillates between shame and shamelessness. It never actually takes any action to actually help us get released from what is to do, what is helpful for us, either through shame or through like complete abandonment of the shame. Mind actually forces us to do what is not good for us. Either way, through shame, it keeps us away from bhakti, and through shamelessness, it is forces us towards maya. So understanding these things, gradually we understand, oh, the modes are like how they're acting. And even if it's producing some kind of guilt, or we don't need to worry about it, because the real guilt is supposed to stop us from doing things that are harmful to us. Thank you, Madhurinder, for sharing. Anyone else would like to say something about the three modes? What do you think they are, or how do you think they are important?
Is it like how we are feeling, like whether we are feeling passionate or whether we are feeling lazy or whether we are feeling like good? That is the three modes, like
That is the symptom of an effect of the three modes that we can observe in ourselves and see and guess what are we being influenced by.
So whatever we are feeling is the one, right? Feeling is the one, or the guna is exactly like it's something different altogether.
The feeling is not guna. The feeling is the effect of the guna.
What is exactly guna?
That's we are going to see in the next section. Yes, that's what we are going to see in the next section.
Okay.
I think Ritik just escaped thinking I'm going to ask everyone to speak. I'm so sorry. I scared him.
And one more thing, what I notice is like with these three things, that whenever I'm doing something, if we think, is it like, am I in the sattva guna right now, or am I in like a which guna right now? If we think, suppose if I am in tamo guna, then if I can understand, okay, I am in tamo guna, then how can I get out of this one and then get back into sattva guna? Then that is one thing. And then the second part is the being as nirguna. So like from the beginning it was nirguna, but because of material covering, like material getting into the material nature, it became covered. So it needs to go back into nirguna again. How can we go back into nirguna again? Is by doing the process of bhakti, by getting into bhakti, and then realizing time to time, uncovering ourselves by understanding this, uncovering ourselves by understanding these feelings, like am I in laziness? I mean, get out of the laziness and get back into like time to time thinking about these things, and then getting like being into bhakti, and then like offering our to Lord and being in the process of the bhakti.
Thank you. Thank you for summarizing. Yes, the soul is originally nirguna, but it is currently being influenced. So the whole process is extricating the soul outside. And the Jnana yogis too, by analyzing the modes, and they just do it through an intellectual way, they try. But what Krishna is saying is, if you practice bhakti, naturally you will rise above. And that's what Prabhupada also mentioned. So sometimes that's why devotees may not intellectually understand many things, but they actually attain the results of what they need to achieve by practicing bhakti. Because Krishna is nirguna, Krishna is beyond the mode. So when we actually honestly with emotion chant Krishna's name, naturally we feel there is a lightness. Like when you intensely in the association of devotees, you go for a retreat, you go for a dham, where you literally seriously take association of devotees, hear and chant Hare Krishna, and from your heart express that emotion to Krishna. Yes, I'm a soul struggling in this material world. I'm not like so and so. Like when we start chanting with this identity, oh, I'm a monk and I have these duties to do and I have a class to give. Then when you just start chanting Hare Krishna, you get 100 more ideas from that identity, and then you have to push all of that around. But when we chant in the beginning itself, we say, I'm a soul struggling in this material world. I'm blind. I'm actually ignorant. I don't know what I'm doing here. And I'm completely lost here by the influence of the three modes. Please, please help me engage in the service of Krishna. Please let me understand who Krishna is, how I'm supposed to give my heart to him. When that emotion, when that place we chant, then at least it's not that our mind will just stay there, but at least the intensity could be much different. So that is why through the process of bhakti, though it looks very simple, it effectually achieves the same goal of freeing us from the three modes, even when we don't fully understand them. Eventually, by the practice, we will gradually understand. So yes, we are all not free. We are being pushed and pulled by the forces. And the problem is we don't even realize. We think it is me desiring these things. I want. Yes, the soul's nature is to desire, but now that desire is being filtered through these prisms of red or green or yellow. So the light comes out as red, green, yellow. The original desire of the soul is to serve Krishna, but currently, because it is passed through the filter of the three modes, it gets reflected either in trying to enjoy oneself or being destructive to others in so many ways. So we'll explore that. What are the three modes? So we all have heard these three words, Sat, that the soul is Sachitananda, Krishna is Sachitananda. So the spiritual reality, the nature of the spiritual reality is Sat, and that Sat is affected by a potency called as Sandhini, and Chit is affected by the potency called as Samvit potency. And Ananda is affected by the Hladini potency. We have heard this word Hladini more than Sandhini and Samvit probably, because Radharani is considered as the personification of this Hladini energy, the Ananda potency. So these three potencies actually form the spiritual existence, spiritual reality. That is, there is existence, there is awareness of one's existence, and there is the highest level of awareness is love and happiness. The phone exists, but the phone is not aware of its existence. I exist, but I'm aware of my existence. But if I'm aware of my existence, I won't be satisfied. I need to express and experience love. That's the highest expression of the soul. So the same way in the spiritual world, there is a potency that manages existence, eternality. There is a potency that manages awareness, knowledge for the sake of the pastimes, whatever the devotee needs to know and needs to have in order to effect that pastime. So that is managed. And then there is the happiness that the devotee experiences and the Lord experiences. And the whole existence is the combination of these three potencies. And since I don't remember the spiritual reality, if I was there, or even if I don't even know, so I only know this much, technically speaking, that the spiritual reality is a combination of Sandhin, and that's what is manifest as Sat. We are eternal, we have awareness, and we have an capacity to experience and express love. Make sense? So far, all on the same page? Agree? And when it reflects in the material world, these three things reflects as Sattva. I am trying my best to find a Shastric proof of what correlates with what. Sandhini manifests as Sattva or Sandhini manifests as Raj. I don't know that correlation. I tried to read as much as possible. All I could find is that these are reflections of these three potencies. But there is no exact correlation that Hladini manifests as or Hladini manifests as Sattva. That part I'm not sure, so I'm not going to claim what I don't know. However, this is a reflection of the spiritual reality. So sattva is goodness, impulsivity is rajas or passion. We call it usually it as passion. And tamas is ignorance or darkness. So sattva, actually goodness, leads to clarity, happiness, knowledge, balance, equanimity, has satisfaction. These kind of feelings come from. And rajas is restless drive. This, that, like people are constantly like active for the sake of sometimes being active. I know certain people, their value in life is they have to be active. They're 75 years old and they just push themselves to be active. After a few years, he becomes tired. And then again, he just, because his principle in life is you have to be active until you die. If I sit back and if people think I'm an old person, he's scared of that. So he pushes himself all the time as much as possible. I have to do this, actually over and over exerts, because it is an idea in the mind that only by being active, I'm useful. Otherwise, I'm useless. So I don't want to feel useless because I'm aged. So then overcompensates. And that's one way. But there is also like in general, people, you come to New York City on a weekend, go to Soho, go see the Lower East Side, you will see passion and ignorance, of course, a lot. So completely, it's like full manifestation. You go to Times Square. So restless drive, passion, ambition, ego, these are all symptoms of Rajas. Tamas is very much available in New York City, subways, all over, all around. There is drug addiction. You can see people lying around, how their lives are being destroyed by a simple one factor. It's very painful, actually, to see a very rich city with so much resources. And amidst all of that lives so many people without homes, without food, without shelter, without proper clothes, no sanitary, no hygiene, no sanitation, nothing. They're just in the streets. And whatever little money they get, they use it for taking drugs and destroy themselves further. So it just out in the eyes like it's available in the city. Very rare to find sattva in the city, but rajas and tamas is plenty in the city. So laziness, dullness, procrastination, addiction, destructive behaviors, destructive attitudes, anger, violence, terrorism, these are all effects of modes of ignorance. So this is the general explanation of what are the three modes. Three modes are the building blocks of the material reality. We're going to see further how do we understand them. There are two core functions of the modes. They're the building blocks of a material reality. We all see this laptop screen or a phone screen currently. Feels like I am moving and I see Purva having her hand like this. Oh my God, what am I doing on a Saturday night? Mother in the laughing. So we see that on the screen. Nice to see you. Okay. So we are seeing all of these things in the screen. However, in reality, it's all just the pixels on the immediate reality level. Yes, you are like existing. Purva, you don't need to justify. It's okay. I'm not like judging you.
No, I have a question, Prabhu.
Okay, can I finish this?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So it's in reality, yes. Say for example, Pune, Purva is sitting in Pune, and I'm sitting here in New York City. And what I'm seeing here on screen is not reality in the sense is a reflection of the reality. It's a combination of the modes. Suppose my camera goes out, or if my camera has the trouble, then you will see pixels being like not very clear. So the screen is pretty much the combination of the basic pixels, whatever it's using. For simplicity's sake, if you take it as RGB, so it's just a combination of these three color pixels combined in certain ratios. It shows like there is a movie going on the screen, the hero is running, the heroine is running, and all these things we see and we become so influenced. If they feel romantic, we feel a second-hand romantic emotion. If they feel angry, we feel a second-hand romantic, like anger. There is anxieties and we feel that anxiety. It's very real. Have you ever felt when you're in a movie theater, you just feel that anxiety that somebody is going to kill someone and your heart is like palpitating. There's nothing happening on the screen. The moment the projector goes off, there's nothing existing on the screen. But the more we actually tune into it, then we make the experience real. So what is being shown in this world, what is all being like, whatever, maybe I have this card next to me. So this is a combination of the matter. That matter is also produced from the three modes, and it's a building blocks. If you read the Vedic account of creation, that the modes become active, and from then actually all the material elements manifest. In fact, all the material elements manifest from material nature in the mode of ignorance. Everything manifests, all the earth, water, fire, air, ether, everything manifests from material nature in the mode of ignorance. So they are the building blocks. They are like the threads in a sari or in any dress that I see. There are threads that is making this t-shirt. So different color threads. So like that, the whole material nature is woven into a material reality through the combination of the sattva. So this is one function of them. But they just don't create the material reality, but they also control you, how you perceive it, how you process it, and how you pursue the world. Everything is being shaped. Our behavior, our sense of identity is also being shaped. So they become like the ropes that binds us to this world. How? Because they make us perceive, oh, this object attractive, this object not attractive, this is enjoyable, this is not enjoyable. They help us perceive things like that. This is very soft, this is very pleasurable, this is not very pleasurable. You put pineapple in pizza, for Italians hate it, Americans love it. So it's how you perceive things. What is enjoyable, what is cross, it depends on how the modes is on one's cultural conditioning and how we process it. Something is pleasurable, something is not pleasurable, and how you perceive it. Then if you think, oh, it's pleasurable, then you perceive it, or like you are like fixed on it. If this girl won't accept my proposal, I will just die. If this person does not actually respect me, so then I don't have any worth, so I'll just fight for it. How we actually pursue in this world, the same situation, different people react differently. Once somebody fails the exam and they're like, okay, next year. Someone fails the exam, they're so fearful, anxious, completely like distressed. And another person just commits suicide just because they didn't stand first in the class. An IIT student just committed suicide because she feared that she might lose her first rank in the upcoming exam. She hasn't written the exam. She hasn't got the results. She hasn't written the exam. Where's the question of getting the result? And still she was in anxiety. What if I lose my first rank? Because her ego was, I'm the first in the class. What if this friend becomes the first? So out of that anxiety, she just committed suicide. She just could not handle it. So different people, how do we actually perceive, process, and pursue the world? All those behaviors are shaped by, and who do we think we are? Everything is being influenced by these three modes. So the three modes not just create the room, but also influence how do you actually pursue the room, depending on our desires. So the three gunas are the subtle forces. They're not like gross things. They are subtle forces. that shape the interaction between consciousness and matter, because consciousness is spiritual, matter is material. So that interaction, oh, this phone, I'm like, oh, this is the latest phone, I need to have this. The phone is not sending a proposal to me, please come, I'm here available. No, it's just that I develop a infatuation, I need to have this phone, this latest model. So my consciousness is interacting with matter, but it is influenced by passion or ignorance or goodness. So matter is like a one, like whatever love we have for Maya is a one-sided love. It's a one-sided love affair. There is no love from the other side. So we are holding on to it. There's this king Janaka. His name is also Janaka, but he is not Sita's father. So he's being visited by a sage, and he asked the sage, "How do I give up this addiction, attraction to Maya?" And the sage gets up and starts running. And the king is like, why is this sage running? So he becomes curious, what happened? So he runs behind the sage, and the ministers run behind the king, and everybody in the court is running behind every others. So it's like the whole kingdom is running behind the sage, and the sage rushes and then goes and embraces a tree. And the king comes and says, my dear sage, like, what happened? I just asked you a philosophical question. Why did you start running? Did I do anything wrong? Like, why are you running away? And why are you embracing this tree now? He says, no, I'm just saying, like, the tree is, how can I get free from this tree? The tree is holding me. I said, no. The king said, no, the tree is not holding you. You are holding the tree. Just let go of it. He said, that's the answer to your question. Maya is not holding you. You are holding on to it. Let go of it. So we are actually holding on to it in many ways through our desires. So it's not that Maya is holding on, like holding us captive. We are very happily sleeping on her lap. That's why it's holding. Like, how long will you sleep on the lap of Maya? How long we will just fool ourselves, thinking, oh, it's the influence of the Maya, but it's also our desires. So we can actually actively give away and release ourselves. So the three gunas are subtle forces that shape the interaction between the consciousness and matter. They create the world, and they also set the rules how we interact with the world. They facilitate that connection based on our desires. And just like strings pull a puppet, you have seen this famous BBT painting where there are three, of course, there are three ladies on the top, and they're like pulling all the puppets. Yesha guna mama maya this yesha gunamaya. This material nature is gunamayi, is made up of the three modes. So we are all like puppets. These invisible modes are pulling our minds and emotions and behavior when we are not actively exercising our free will to surrender to Krishna. So the moment we actually start choosing, oh, I feel sleepy, but no, I have to chant. This is the time. Otherwise, later I won't have my time to chant. So I push myself. No, you might be feeling sleepy. You might be feeling lazy. You might want to check out a video on YouTube or watch some Instagram reels or go and just waste your time in so many ways. No, you're thinking, no, I need to chant now. It's important. When you push yourself, when you actually choose Krishna, that means you're not under the modes. At least for that moment when you're choosing Krishna. Again, when we start chanting, we start like thinking about all the other things. That's a different thing because it's a momentary thing. So every moment when you choose Krishna, then you're not under the effect of the modes. So you transcend. So the more and more we develop that ability, then we are not puppets. We can actively choose Krishna. That's the only way we can be not a puppet anymore. So no one likes to be a puppet. We become very irritated if someone controls us. Everything we have to say and everything we have to do. If someone controls us in personal or professional life, we become extremely like irritated. But we are being constantly dictated by the three modes, and we don't recognize it. So that's why this chapter is explaining how they trap us. The sattva traps through pride and knowledge and peace. Oh, this is so nice. Like, I get a place near the waters overlooking the ocean or like a lake. Like, I go kayaking and it's just so peaceful. And people become like, but of course, there is no pure goodness in this world. Means when I went to Maine, I see people, they're in such natural place, so much that, but what they're doing is like passionate things and ignorant things. So it's always a combination, but usually it traps one through pride, complacency. It's a gold chain. They're very comfortable. They have the money they need. They have satisfied. They just are okay. They don't understand that they are in a prison. So they become very comfortable in the prison because they get right food. They have good name. They hold some position within the prison. They get meals at the right time, the kind of healthy food or the kind of food they want, the quantity they want. So people become very comfortable in this world if they have money, if they have knowledge, if they have name, fame, if they are a celebrity, if they are a politician, if they have power. So they become very comfortable. Of course, politicians, those who are hankering for power, are not in sattva. But in general, I'm saying those people who are very thoughtful, intellectual, peaceful, they practice a lot of well-being, emotionally aware. So those kind of people may think, oh, this is all to life. So it's a gold chain. We're being bound by a gold chain in the prison cell. And then there is rajas. So this is the default mode of the material world, the trap of constant becoming an action, becoming someone, becoming something, and achieving things, the constant ambition running around. So that rajas, it's a silver chain. And tamas is complete opposite: procrastination, addiction, escapism, not being responsible, not fulfilling one's responsibilities, neglecting things, and drowning in remorse, drowning in shame, fear, guilt. All these things are effects of the tamas, which is an iron chain. Ultimately, everybody is bonded, but some are with a better quality of life, some are in a lower quality of life, but everything is ultimately within the prison. So the modes are everywhere. So they build up the material reality we live in, and they shape how we live within it. And surrendering to Krishna is the only way to get released from this trap. So I repeat, the modes are everywhere. They build up the material reality. So in everything there is modes. This table, this laptop, it's all coming from the mode of the material nature and the mode of ignorance. So that's why matter always has this dampening effect on the soul when it is not properly utilized, especially. And the whole process of bhakti is to utilize these very things for the sake of gaining released. You see, what is chanting? It involves sound. Of course, Hare Krishna mantra is a spiritual sound, but it involves the senses, it involves the sound. And there is, we offer flowers to the deities, we offer food to the deities, we dress the deities with various dresses, ornaments, and everything. So it's all that people generally use for themselves also. So we use the same matter, but we use it in a therapeutic way. So sometimes the venom is used as an antidote. When it is administered properly, the same venom can act as an antidote. And however, if not, then it can act as a venom. Similarly, the same matter that would otherwise bind us can be used in the service of Krishna, then it will act as a what do you call, antidote. It will actually help us gain release from the material nature. So the power of bhakti is enormous. Sometimes we are oblivious to what we have. We have a great gem in our hands and we use it as a paperweight. We have the most rare gem in our hands, but we use it as a paperweight. So we have the process of bhakti, we have the chanting of the holy names, we have the association of great souls like Srila Prabhupada and his words and inspiration. But if we don't really fully understand, then we use that bhakti. It's another day. I just have to share. So many other things become very important. So we have that. And that's why I have this prema ratana, means I have this great wealth of love for Krishna in my hands, but I just casually just lost it. I don't care for it. So the three modes actually not just build up the reality we live in, and they actually constantly distract us from the ways to get out of this material reality. They shape how we live within it. So it is already 10. So if there are any questions I can take, but still it would be hard for me to complete all the 9 verses this week. So let me know what you want. If there are questions, if there are thoughts, reflections, there's nothing wrong in just soaking ourselves in the introduction and the orientation of this chapter. So then the rest can go quickly. Hare Krishna Purva.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I have one question. When
Mhm.
you described the Rajas and Tamas in New York City, which we can see in almost all major cities across the world these days, and
Yes.
it perfectly describes what we read in the first chapter of the first canto of the Bhagavatam. That was a
Mhm.
synopsis of how the yoga would be. It's almost like that. And when we combine this with bhakti, we are counteracting these with whatever bhakti we as individuals are performing. At the same time, we are going out and performing Sankirtan. So my question is, how much of this is swimming across the current, or how much of it, no matter what our intentions are or how much efforts we are putting in, how much can we fight against Kali Yuga? Or is it like, I don't know how to ask this, but
Yeah,
how
I
much of
understand
our
what you're
efforts
saying.
would be?
How much is it worth to fight against
Yes.
Maya? Like how much power do we have even fight against? How much effect
Yes,
our
without
bhakti actually will have on us if we are fighting constantly against upstream? If you're trying to
yes.
swim upstream, will we get tired? Is our effort like fully not utilized because we get dampened? Like I practice bhakti and then I go out and see things that contaminates my mind, so I lose my practice or my consciousness. Is that kind of your hinting at?
Yes, and even I have been a few times on the Sankirtan, the party in Barcelona, and even there I see like people just throw things at them. The devotees were chanting, or one devotee had some coffee poured on him. I don't know. On one hand, I don't want to cause a lot of trouble because I'm in a foreign land. I don't want to impose what I follow in my country in their country. And at the same time, I understand what Srila Prabhupada is trying to say. I also agree with whatever he's saying. So it feels very conflicting. And I don't know how much of the efforts that we are putting in, they're going to bear the results, or whether we're just going to end up getting very exhausted.
I understand to some extent what you're saying. So there's this sage who was just walking by and he saw there was a lot of fishes being washed ashore. So then he started picking and then throwing as many as into the water again. And a fisherman was walking by and saying, "Oh, are you a fool? Don't you see thousands of fishes are washed ashore? So how does it make any difference you throwing a few?" And said, and the sage told him, "For that fish that I'm throwing, it makes a world of difference. Basically, life and death. I'm not able to save all the thousands and thousands, but whichever fish I threw into for it is life and death of a difference." Srila Prabhupada was willing to give his life, even if he was able to save one person in the West. He writes in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita, even if one person take to this knowledge sincerely, I'll consider my efforts successful. So imagine the amount of confidence and compassion that Srila Prabhupada had. When he came, there was nothing. There was no hope that people will even accept what he is saying. Imagine what is the probability if you ask an intellectual person to analyze the probability of Prabhupada's success, there's zero possibility. There's no possibility there. So what we are trying to do is be on the side of Krishna, and Krishna is more powerful than Maya. So if one soul sincerely takes shelter of Krishna, they can create a revolution in the world. And that's Prabhupada is a proof. And his disciples and each one of us in our lives have surely made some difference. We may not have completely transformed yet, but we have to start somewhere. And surely we have made some difference in our own lives. And by that, we are also contributing to others. When it comes to outreach, we do outreach depending on the level of conviction currently we have. Like, how comfortable are you in pursuing outreach? To that extent, you pursue. If you feel putting yourself in the public and chanting in a foreign land sounds or feels like little uncomfortable or intimidating, do what is comfortable for you. Or by doing it regularly, maybe you will not feel that intimidated by it. Some inconveniences, believe me, even if you don't do anything, and when you're walking in the street, some mad person in New York City can actually, what to speak of pouring coffee, can shoot you. There is danger all over in the world. It can happen anywhere, anytime. So if a devotee is trying to spread the names of Krishna, and if there is a little opposition, it's okay. It could be tolerated. But if it is like disturbing you, you can take it slowly. You can do what is comfortable. The more you actually experience it internally and you develop conviction, then it'll be easy for you to go and tell others. Believe me, what I'm saying today, whatever I'm speaking about Maya and whatever I'm speaking about how we should be getting, I don't think before some years I would have confidently said those things. Even though I believed in those things for myself and I was trying to practice, I would not have confidently say as an introvert. So today I'm saying not because I just like to speak or just like instruct people. That is not my nature, usually speaking. So what I am sharing is coming from a personal experience of trying to practice and experiencing it. Oh, actually, we can become free. It's possible. Even if I have a momentary experience, I realize, oh, if I only practice better, I can be free. I can be of better service to the world and I can be actually happy. I don't need to suffer. It takes time. It takes practice. It takes investment, but it is possible. It's not easy, but that does not mean it is not worth. Nothing worthwhile comes very easy in this world. Even if you feel like I'm living in a city and I'm just trying to practice bhakti and it gets dampened, I chant in my room and I feel so spiritual. I go outside, I look at things and I completely forget and I become materialistic. Even if that is the case, okay, choices. Would you like to go and live in a forest? No. So then wherever you are, try to practice. It may take time, but still, you will eventually be able to live in the city and still be unaffected. But not because we are attached to living in the city. Maybe our circumstances demand it. Maybe that's where our service is. So we might. But if we think, oh, I'm attached to the city, that's a different thing. Eventually, by practicing bhakti, we will develop that internal and external detachment gradually. Because everyone has a different life situation. If you have a family and the children are studying in the city, you're not going to go out of the city. So what you do is try to practice bhakti and try to stay afloat as much as possible. And eventually you will also be, if you really cross over the three modes, even in the city, you can be a light that's spreading, what do you call, bhakti. Like you see this podcast where Karu and Raghunath Prabhus they pretty much live in New York City, like at least Kaustubha Prabhu. But is sharing wisdom, which is uplifting people all over the world, living in all major cities, Western countries. So it is possible if you practice bhakti. And Prabhupada, he was completely unaffected wherever he was. So it is possible. It may not be easy, but it is possible. Did I answer your question?
Yes, Prabhuji, very nicely. Thank you very much for the encouragement.
Hopefully it was encouraging.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts, any reflections? I think we will end for today. But after these questions, if anyone wants to ask, next week we will pick up the actual chapter itself. And during the week, I'll post these notes. Please read the chapter. Please read the links in the 13th chapter. Spend some time thinking about the three modes. Think, okay, why do I feel the way I feel on a certain time of the day or dealing with certain people? My desires, take stock of your desires. See what are your major motivations and where they're coming from. So we don't need to feel like guilt or shame or fear. Unless we understand what is the disease, we won't be able to cure it. So becoming aware is the first step. Accepting, yes, I have a problem. I have so much passion in me. I'm being impelled by all these desires to enjoy. So accepting is not a problem. And when we accept, then we can actually do something about it. Then we can think, oh, how can I actually chant telling Krishna, my heart is filled with desires to enjoy this world. I'm just so distracted. I'm just so lazy. Please help me. So we can turn that into a prayer. If we understand our real situation, how conditioned we are, we can use it to turn to Krishna and take shelter of Krishna better. The serious the disease is, the serious we take the treatment also. So understand our situation, then accordingly we'll be able to take shelter of Krishna. Many times we are not able to take shelter of Krishna sincerely because we don't realize how much we are in trouble, how much we are being in trouble that we don't realize it. So you think, oh, life is great, New York City, First Avenue, cars around, parks around, people are all like moving around. So you just think, oh, this nice place, it's great. There's nothing wrong in it, but still, it's not the best thing. So the ultimate place is Krishna's abode. So to remind ourselves that is very important to be able to take shelter better. Mother Sri Rupa, Hare
Haribol Prabhu, thank you so much for the class. I really liked, especially when you were speaking about how the modes are filtering through this light. It made me think about how a young lady in my community group, she was saying, this too shall pass. But it was a story about how a king or somebody said, bring me something that is neither, I forgot what the exact story was, but it was something like neither good nor bad. And I'll get the exact, but this too shall pass.
What is one statement when you say the one phrase that when you say a happy person becomes sad and a sad person becomes happy?
Yeah. So she was saying, when she said that, she said, and they came back with this too shall pass, that
Yeah.
this too shall pass, meaning this good, whatever is good that is happening to you shall pass also. And when it
Yes.
was like, because most people say it like this too shall pass when it's something negative. but-
Bad.
yeah, when it's something bad, but then we don't think about that. The good, what we're going through that's easy might pass also, but also thinking about it like that and using your filters and thinking, I'm not angry, but I'm not identifying with the anger, but the anger is moving through me, just not to be attached to it for the goodness, for whatever good or whatever tribulations we're going through.
Yeah, it takes a level of consciousness to use the anger and not be used by anger.
Thank you so much for doing this service. It is
Thank you.
so
Hare Krishna.
enlivening. Thank you.
Thank you. It's an honor and privilege that all of you are here and giving your ears and time.